Well, Dennis, this is it. This is a wrap tonight of 12 weeks of getting to spend every Monday night with you going through our masterclass. This has been truly a pleasure.
Well, it has been, and the 12 weeks have flown by. And I got to tell you, the first numbers that have come through, we have jumped dramatically in our master unfranchise owners across all markets. We've got Hong Kong on, we've got Florida on, Vermont's in. Isn't it fun to see
We,
all the different parts
Argentina's on with us, Dennis.
of the state of Washington with Elaine? All right, Malaysia's on. Yes, thank you for that greeting.
Congratulations, Elaine, on hitting master franchise owner. That is great this quarter.
Yes, absolutely. Jim, when I was just reflecting back on these 12 weeks, it was an exciting time that we got to discuss all the different parts, the essentials of success when becoming an unfranchised owner and going out and reaching their goals and the consistency that it takes to get there. It was
Yeah,
very rewarding for us.
it,
Um,
it, it really has been. Really has been. And Dennis, we just finished last quarter. And now starting a new quarter for everybody who's on here with us, heading into hitting Master UFO again, and make sure you get that jump start on it right away. Come out strong this first week or two, and set yourself up for a really great 3 months as we go into July, August, September.
And it's important. Thanks, Kimberly. It's nice to see you out there. The one thing that I will say is what you said with the third quarter starting and the consistency of reaching master unfranchise owner status on a quarterly basis. It's a sense of pride and action and just setting yourself up to do the things necessary to make it happen. And it's funny, we were talking earlier when you were saying, no, actually, it was Andrew. I got to tell you this, you weren't on. You were sort of like having that technical challenge. But Andrew G said to me, he says, I remember you talking about leadership, and we said, just do what you need to do. And you'll know when you become a leader, when you look behind you and there's people following what you do. and
I
that
love
just,
that.
you don't have to think about it. You don't basically get a tap on the shoulder and saying, hey, you're a leader now. No, it's just doing the things necessary. But let's go ahead and jump into this week number 12. I'm going to share my screen and I'll go over here to our presentation for this evening. This was rather interesting when we put this together. I just wanted to share that for the simple reason is that if we start talking about things that we do, week 12 is about leadership and effective imprinting. And leadership is a huge word when you talk about unfranchised business success. And it's sort of exciting to get to this point because no use talking about leadership if you don't know what to lead with, and that's what the first 11 weeks really put into play as we went through them. And it's exciting to see that now we've got them recorded. I know we talked about integrating them in the learning center, and it's quite a thrill for us. But I wanted to just get into last week's assignment. I hope it was eye-opening for those. Many of you have sent in that you've commented. The McLaughlin's, thank you very much. Getting that third quarter schedule up and getting down all the important dates, and then going to a personally sponsored that you work with and help them set up a calendar. And what you're doing is putting things in motion. But some of the breakthroughs or challenges that have come up, and this was interesting looking at the comments, Jim. The biggest thing as far as challenges was the number of other things that were in the calendar and how to get around that with any consistency. And I understand what you're saying, but I've got to go back to how important is it that you accomplish what you set out to accomplish? How big is your why? And is it Are you able to stop your weekly golf game for a year, so you can get what you really want? You see, some of us just don't want to give up things, but you're not ever going to really, really, really get what you want unless you give up some things. What are some of the challenges that you see with folks when they're creating their schedule, Jim?
The hardest thing is what you just hit on, Dennis, is removing things that are fun but aren't going to get you to where you want to be in your life or your career. And that's where really putting that emphasis on what you want. I mean, I remember starting the business and saying, okay, basically, I got a full-time job. I've got this part-time business. I know where I want to get to, and blocking everything I could out. I quit. I played basketball twice a week in a league. That was done. So I can, if I want to come back to it a year or two later, great. If not, great. But I've got to put that time in. And I think, guys, you've seen that by looking at the calendar, by seeing what you need to do from your comments. We saw that. So I think if you organize your time, you can do more in less time than you've ever done before by being organized with it.
Great point. And I'll just remind everybody something that I've learned along the way is that in success, there's really no balance. You know, I remember when we first started out in 1992, Nancy and I got together and we started talking about what we wanted and what we were willing to do. And Nancy said to me, says, I'll keep the family together. I'll make sure they remember who you are. You know?
Yeah. People say, man, I want to keep my balance, and I say, well, if you want success, you've got to go unbalanced for a little while. It's okay. You can rebalance later on. Yeah. But I don't know anyone who's been great, Dennis, in anything who wasn't a little unbalanced getting there,
Yeah, and there were some dates that I had to give up, and it was a dual decision. But again, being able to go to my grandson's 2-year-old party at the zoo, and again, spending time with the entire family on the 4th of July and enjoying that and not really worrying about anything because you had made it. It's nice. It's really nice when you achieve that victory. And I just want to remind everybody, please go back, look at your calendar. I want to remind you what Jim talked about, the non-negotiables that he talked about earlier in our weeks that we spent together. You got to do those kind of things. These are the things necessary to make happen. So again, keep that in mind. This is a great topic for us tonight, leadership and effective imprinting. And I think everybody loves the concept of being a leader, but I'm not sure if everybody knows what responsibilities go with leadership. And of course, if you've been in the business any amount of time, you know that effective imprinting or duplication is critical. Jim, what are some of your thoughts on these topics?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I want to congratulate you, Dennis, on hitting Master UFO for this last quarter. If we're going to talk about leadership, I think it was important for everybody to know that we weren't just talking, we were doing, and you hit Master UFO, and I know you've got your sights set on it again already, so congratulations on that. But, when we talk, let's move towards effective imprinting. Why is that so important? It's why we spent last session talking about how to get through those first 90 days, because what you do and the way you set people up is going to imprint on them what they're going to do and how they're going to set people up. And as JR always says, that can be really good or that can be really bad, and we have to imprint the correct way. And that's where leadership comes from. It comes from sometimes being inconvenient, doing the things you don't want to do, but need to be done the right way. And I'm excited on this topic, Dennis, because it's a tough topic for a lot of people. They want to be leaders, but they're not sure how to be a leader or what it means to be a leader. And really, as you and I discussed, there's a lot of theories on leadership. What did you say, over 1,000, I think you told me? Yes. Was it called Due North or True North, the book you were talking about?
Yes.
Tremendous.
Yes. Hmm. Yeah, no, you bring a very important point up here. When we start talking about these areas, there's a lot of interesting things that people want to understand or know what are the steps to become a great leader. And I have to be honest with you, I don't think there is any clear definition. The more books that I read, the more things that I study, the more years that I've worked leading people, we assume leadership when there is a success or victory. That's one way you can look at it. And then again, how do you gauge success or victory? Because the big success comes from winning the day, accumulating a lot of small successes, and then all of a sudden you have the victory. Um, it's something that really is confusing a lot of times because what we may feel is a win may not be that impressive to the team, but it was something that you wanted to really accomplish. Some of us are defined by our unique life stories and the way that they discovered their passions and their purpose of their leadership. I know you're a big fan of purpose and being passionate about what we do. I'm sure you've met some interesting leaders with unique stories in your life and even yourself making that transformation, from
I have, and you and I were talking earlier, and I mentioned, you having played professional football, you were coached by Dick Vermeil, arguably one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NFL for a lot of things he did, taking a team like that. And then you were coached by you saw lots of different styles, and leadership made a difference, didn't it? On how the team did, on how things performed. And then you moved into leadership roles during your NFL career as well.
Yeah, it was sort of interesting when you think about that. In the case with the Philadelphia Eagles, it was voted from your peers that you would be elevated to a captain position. In Detroit, when I was there, what I found is that the head coach was looking for something to get his team to another level, which upon being traded to Detroit, it was something that I brought with me, and he elected me captain. It wasn't the peers. And I think most of the people didn't even like that fact that I was elevated to that position, but it just put more pressure on it. But then again, if you're going to be a true leader, pressure is something you've got to get used to. And that leads into another conversation, and that is true leadership is living your authentic self, being described with an internal compass pointing true north in the spinning world that we live in. It's not hard being yourself all the time. And that's very challenging in many ways for people, because God, that pressure sometimes I don't want to speak what's on my mind, but at the same time, you have to be consistent. Mm,
Right? And
yes.
sometimes, as a leader, you're going to say things that people need to hear,
Hmm.
but it's hard to say to them, and that's not always easy. Like when someone says, I want to be successful, but they're not willing, they're not doing the work. You sometimes have to say, you said you want this, but you're not doing what we said you have to do to get there. And as hard as that is, it's one of the best things you can ever do for somebody to position them correctly.
Boy, you hit that one right on the head with the tough love. Man, that is boom. And you know what? And that's one of the reasons we work so well together. You don't spare the tough love. And I'll tell you what I love about you, Jim, is that you're willing to let people know where they have to improve, and they may not like it, but you bring it across in a way that they know it's because you care. That is a great characteristic of a good leader. So good for you, young man.
Thank you. But you're right. It does come from caring. I've been in positions where I had, and we'll call them so-called leaders, but they didn't tell you everything that needed to be told because they really didn't want. It was more effort to coach you up and help you, or do that than it was to say those hard things. And I've always believed it's not hard. It's coming from my heart. As you've got one of the biggest hearts, and that comes down from Jr., Laura, and Mark. Everything in the company, the way we've done things. And you know, when you care, you'll do the hard things. And that's really, I think all of us should remember that.
Oh, great. Hey, so another area that's fun to look at is, listen, you're not born a leader. We all have the capacity of leadership. All right. And you don't have to wait till somebody taps on your shoulder and says, it's your turn. No, that's the corporate ladder. When somebody gets downsized or dies or something like that, we don't want to wait for that, folks. Don't wait for the tap on your shoulder. You want to just declare that you're going to do what's necessary to accomplish what needs to get done in your unfranchised business. And surprise when you turn around, as Andrew was saying earlier, that you'll be surprised to see the people following.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned early on, I did some research on leadership because I really wanted to give the people the magic, if there was any type of secret sauce. And I don't think there is a secret sauce after seeing more than 1,000 studies in the attempt to determine leadership styles, the characteristics or the personality traits of amazing leaders. And this floored me because every environment is a little bit different. So leadership has its twists and turns. I don't know if you've ever experienced different styles of leadership coming up in your career.
Oh, always. And, you know, I think you have to look at those and determine what can I learn from them, you know, and I learned some things I didn't want to do from leaders. I learned some things I want to do. I learned some people who are very, very tough, some people who are very, very loving. And you know, it all goes together, but they're so different in so many ways. And I'm a big mentor person, meaning I've had a lot of people I feel very grateful for in my life to help me get to where I've gotten to. And they all, if you put them next to each other, they'd all be very different. But I'll go back to that common theme of the best leaders I've had is they all really cared. And I think that's the biggest thing on there. No matter what the style or trait, they had a lot of caring when they did it.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, and Dennis, when you said I provide tough love, I was cracking up because in the chat, all my personal teammates started putting some messages in there. So I guess I give it a little more than I always need. The tough love, always appreciate it, even when it burns a bit. Thank you, Martha. I love that, Paku. Thank you. Leadership in Market America. It's a metaphor for the best of today's unfranchised business leaders, isn't it? I mean, really, we're looking for what's going on today. Who are our leaders today in our unfranchised business? And we don't put them in that position, Dennis, do we? They put themselves in those positions.
Yes, absolutely. And you can refer to what Simon Sinek says about leadership. They're the first to jump into danger and harm's way. Hey, folks, listen, for unfranchised business leaders, you don't have to jump in front of a train or a moving vehicle or jump into a burning building. Listen, all we really want to see is what is the important steps to help other people get to that level of success. But yeah, it is an amazing metaphor. And it really comes up to the fact that I guess leadership also is the direction that you take, the different styles that we talked about just a little bit earlier and talking to the 1,000 different studies that went on.
It's funny, Dennis, you mentioned like jumping in front of a train, doing something like that. I remember when I was very young in a leadership position, I was in my early 20s and I was managing a team of people. And I had a manager that I would say was not a leader. He was a manager, if you know what I mean. And we'll talk about that. But anyway, one night I had been out with the team and we may have had a few extra cocktails. And we jumped into a fountain at the hotel we were at, this big, huge fountain. And the next day I got called and to meet him in his room. And it was me and about 2-3 other people. And he said, I'm very disappointed. He said, I thought you were a leader. And I looked at him, I said, Richard, I was the first one in the fountain. And he didn't think it was as funny as I did. But, sometimes you got to have some fun while you're leading. So that's okay. All right. A Market America leader knows the way. They know what they need to do. They go the way and they show the way as well. It's like inspiring a movement by getting things going and doing it the right way. We've seen this over and over, haven't we, Dennis? Where a leader comes on and suddenly we see it looks like a whole mass of people moving along with them. And it's their example, the way they're leading it, what they're doing, how they're doing it. And I love that when we see that so many of you, I'm going to say right now, you're leaders because you've been on here for 12 weeks. You're making the commitment to be better. You're doing the things it takes. Like you're Dennis, talking about reading books, listening to audios. I know he took a great leadership course a few years ago that you paid over $10,000 for
Yes.
to go to. Leaders continue to grow and learn while they're doing it. And again, you're just a great example I keep bringing that up, but because I'm thinking of things as we're talking that, over the years you and I have shared.
Oh, thanks. Well, the other things on top of those things is the select requirements, I think, that fulfill the
Mhm.
ability to do those things, showing the way, going the way, being that example. It's number one, and complete understanding of our unfranchised business. That is very, very important. What we do, what our results producing activities are, what are the most efficient ways to help people experience success. Also, belief is such a very strong part of what we do. The belief in our unfranchised proven systems. I mean, do you believe that what we teach really works? I mean, we only have 30 years of experience in doing it, and we've only experienced 92 consecutive quarters of growth, which is 23 years. We must be doing something right, but can you believe that these systems can work, especially if they may not be working as fast as you think they should be working for yourself? Do you believe in the company and the decisions that are made as your partner? Everyone should understand, yes, you are a marketamericashop.com on franchise owner, but ultimately you're an independent contractor that chose to partner with marketamericashop.com. So you better believe that you made the right choice in what you're doing. I hope you agree with me on that.
Belief is so important, Dennis, and I think it's really what we've always talked about as a company. It's what we've been built on. Is belief has always been our. How many times have we heard JR say belief is our number one product? And so correct with that. And then that's belief in yourself as well, that you can achieve that success, and that could be one of the hardest ones for a lot of us to get over. And sometimes you have to have faith. And I always say faith is believing in something you can't always see directly in front of you. But you've got to have that belief. Dennis mentioned passion. One thing I've always believed, if I sit down with somebody, whether they decide to go forward and learning more about the business or not, I want them to be a great ambassador when I walk away. By ambassador, I mean they'll tell people, hey, this guy is really passionate about what he's doing. He really believes in what he's doing. With them, you got to have your enthusiasm. You have to have your drive as well. And Dennis, you mentioned something when we were preparing. You said courage, and I think that is, if you'd expand on that, I think that's a big thing as well.
Yeah, one of the things I refer to it in the Victor's Code as valor, and it is the second step after one creates the vision. So once you understand where you're going and what you want to accomplish, to take that first step of the 1,000-mile journey takes a huge amount of courage, realizing that the journey will have many twists and turns and that you will follow into some of the obstacles, but you have many successes along the way. So to me, this belief in yourself really couples to courage. But I also want to remind everyone that the smartest person is not always the leader. Very rarely is the smartest person ever going to be the leader because they don't have many of the traits in which people will be able to embrace and follow. Realize that. I don't want you to feel that you're inadequate to be exceptional because we each are exceptional in our own ways, but we each have the talent. But that is a powerful part of what we do, Jim, for sure. This is an interesting slide that I want to talk a little bit about, and I'd love to get some of your feedback too. Manager, leader, and owner. Okay. Let's start with the owner. Let's just go reverse here. The owner primarily has taken the biggest risk, and they deserve 100% of the success of that business when it finally accomplishes that. Owners have the privilege because they basically put in the most time and the most money and everything that it took to get lift in whatever business they go to. Look at JR and Lauren Reininger. Think about that. It was JR's $300,000, his last $300,000 to get off the ground, even though it was not enough funds, but he associated with great people that gave him additional opportunity because of the belief they had in JR. And you think about ownership with Lauren and her side of this, pushing JR to take that leap of faith, to go out there and make the difference that she knew that he could. And this is really an important part in understanding the beauty of ownership because of the people that really help give them lift. The leader and the manager, they're different breeds right now for me. Leaders can be managers. Leaders can be, individuals that is going to take the vision of the owner and then move that forward by acting through the strategic items that have been put into place to advance the vision into reality. But really, when you think of managers, then you start thinking about people who are herding the cats, people that are just moving the people forward, not necessarily believing in what they're doing. They're doing the job, they're managing people, their jobs, what they're supposed to be delivering. And it's a different kind of skin in the game than a leader than in an owner. Jim, thoughts, comments?
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I have worked, whenever you've worked anywhere, you work for someone, and they're usually your manager. But over the years, the people I've worked for, I never thought that I love, I never thought of as my manager. I thought of them as a leader. It's like JR says, don't ever call me a boss. I'm a UFO and I'm a leader, right? And that's really what it comes down to. And as you mentioned, being that owner just takes it to a whole new level because of the risk factor. And they always deserve anything an owner has. And you guys are all unfranchised owners. You're taking a risk. Sometimes it's not the monetary. Sometimes it's going back to the courage Dennis talked about to go out and do something on your own to make a difference.
One of the things that I love our compensation plan, and I know we call it the management performance compensation plan. So the management side, but where management performance comes in, that's sort of indicating leader. So I'm okay with it. It would just be, it's better than if it was just management compensation plan. No, it's management performance compensation plan. I'm sorry, I just have to say that. That just bugs me, but I love how it works, and I'm finding a way to create leadership through the management performance.
There we go. Now you got it.
We're going to manage through performance. Okay.
Very good. And as we see here, it says, what is the difference between a leader and leading? And I really think they go a lot hand in hand. When you're leading, it becomes natural to become that leader. Now, there's people who have been leaders in different industries, in our industry in the past, who may not be leading the way they once were. They're still leaders for what they've done and the knowledge they have, but someone today who is leading is that person that you're really going to be looking to as the leader on your team. It's like, if I've seen this over the years, Dennis, and probably you have too, where somebody sort of slows down a little bit. They say, you know what, I'm great, I've done well, I'm making some money, and you see the team slow down because they go to the level of the leader who is leading. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So you always want to be the leader who is leading as you go along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And it really comes back to the Hall of Famers,
Yeah,
and the up and coming superstars, and greatest of all time. What do they call Tom Brady? The GOAT.
yeah,
He's the greatest of all time because he started what, 14 years ago, but at the same time, he's still winning Super Bowls today.
that's
And we
great.
had a saying back in football in the NFL. It says, "You're only as good as your last Sunday." And so when I talk about our Hall of Famers and what we do, they may have done a great job 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and continue to earn supplemental income. But when we talk leader and leading, now you have the people today who are not only leading by example, but creating new leadership. That's when you
So good.
really know that you're still a leader leading. And that's what we do in our business. We create success stories, and those success stories actually evolve naturally in becoming a leader.
Oh, that was great. And that's the only way to build a great organization is to continue to build leaders. So great point on that, Dennis, for everyone.
You bet. And I wanted to spend just a little bit of time here tonight on knowing the difference between go now, waiting, and stable. And these are the strangest names. When JR first brought them up, I said, where is he coming from? What planet is he from? And the go now is the person that has come into the business, is going to do everything you wanted to say and all so much. And we'll talk more about that. And then you have the waiting, who is going to wait and see if you make it before they do
Yeah.
anything, but they don't want to miss anything. So they come into the business because they don't want you to get too far ahead. And then you're stable. Well, these are the people that love the product, might have two or three or four customers. They'll go to an occasional meeting, but they're there. They are the brick and mortar that hold the building together. But I just wanted to dive into that a little bit because these words are so very important.
Oh, so good. And a go now unfranchised owner typically has been a great follower. People always ask me, how do you become a great leader? I always say you got to be a great follower. That's the first step to doing it. And they have a need to achieve. They don't want to sit around. They don't want to be that person who's happy with being mediocre. They want more. And they're usually highly competitive with themselves as well, and meaning that they're going to push themselves to try to achieve more, do more, go after more. That's the go now on franchise owner.
Yeah, and I love that because nowadays, now you're hearing more certified executive coordinators saying, I'm not concerned so much about hitting the master. I want to get right to senior master, jumping to that 3,000 a month level. Really pretty exciting.
Yeah. They also tend to have a lot of optimism, which is a trait I know shared by many of our own franchise owners. They're self-starters. No one tells you when to get out of bed. You get up and you get going. They're disciplined and they have focused work habits. We all work from home and we have to be disciplined on what we do. And that's why we did the calendar exercises with you and some of the things, because I've always been a big believer, discipline will lead to success as a business owner. And that's what our go nows do.
You betcha. Couldn't agree more with that. So let's go about some of the facts. Fact of a go now unfranchise owner can become a leader and success story for you. Also, a go now unfranchise owner can become waiting unfranchise owner. And a go now unfranchise owner can also become a stable unfranchise owner. So many of you come to Jim and I, and you come up to Andrew and you come up and tell us, hey, I got my next leader. He's amazing, or she's amazing. She's this, she's that. And the next thing you know, we're not seeing them at the next event. But I get that. But all I want to say is a go now leader can be many things. Let's make sure the go now is a go now and really getting to the station where they are being followed. But remember, a waiting on franchise owner can become a go now.
Right.
as well as a stable unfranchised owner can become a go now. And when can that happen? Primarily when something changes in their life. But it all comes down to one thing: timing is everything, isn't it, Jim?
It is so true. And what you just said is it typically happens when something changes in their life. And over the years, I've seen that so many times where someone was maybe they were a nice, stable, unfranchised owner, and something changed. And boy, it was get out of my way. I'm going to tear this thing. It's a mental decision they make. And for whatever reason, it happens. And that's the great thing. That's why you got to treat everybody on your team with love, no matter what level they're at, go now, waiting, or stable, because that may change drastically in the future. And you always want to remember we're a retailing machine as a company, and to treat everyone and get everyone in that pace status, which is I think why we focus so much on these basics over these 12 weeks to make sure people are retailing and doing things so when the timing comes, they can go.
And just adding on to that, it goes back to what you were talking about, the importance of belief, and then also the importance of being your best customer, loving the products. That really helps people, find the timing, even if times are crazy. It's not unusual. I can't tell you how many times somebody that has gone stable for 2 or 3 years and have called me up and said, I'm ready to go. And this is so true. Just recently, I got a call yesterday from one of my unfranchised owners in California who called me up. And this is 9 years later. And he's saying, hey, Dennis, I'm ready to go. I said, where have you been, Steve? What planet have you been on? It's been 9 years since I've heard from you, but timing is everything. And the great news is, he's come around, and that's good. So let's talk about effective imprinting. All right. This is something that everyone needs to be aware of. And I would just want to make sure that each of you understand that it all begins with making the decision. To be an effective imprinter or duplicator, you have to make the decision that you will do things the unfranchised way. And that's what it has to be. And many times we tend to adjust the unfranchised way because someone challenges it. And you've got to really decide that when you get challenged in the unfranchised way, you have the ability either to respond or set up a three-way call with your senior leader to be able to explain why this is an important thing to implement. We have to be consistent. We also have to be persistent in what we're doing here. Keeping the funnel full. You can't put all your eggs in one basket and wait for one person and continue to recruit or qualify one person for month after month after month with no backup or not putting more people through the process. And of course, don't wait for other unfranchised owners' timing. You are either doing the business or you are not doing the business. Too many of us wait for unfranchised owners on their timing. Listen, folks, I hope each and every one of you set your goals and your timelines based on what you want to accomplish. Any comments on these, Jim?
I would just state how much I agree with you that I think we have to look and say, what do we want? And then how do we make that happen? I can't make my new person want what I want or go at the speed I want to go. I have to see where they're at. And if they're not going to go at the pace I want to go, I got to keep looking for that next business partner that will want to retail more, that will want to do more, that will want to follow the unfranchised way. I'm so glad you started this slide with that because, over the years, people say, I'll come to a training gym. You're saying the same thing you were saying 8 years ago, except for some of the new technologies or whatever. Maybe I said, it hasn't changed. The unfranchised way is still blocking and tackling and doing things the correct way for the long-term viability of your own business.
So true. Absolutely.
And the basic five, I love that we've covered this so much. And I still love the stories about the basic five, how it came to be. JR bringing it, Dennis, I love the story about with you and Kevin with the basic five, with when it was one of the restaurants, the microphone and the cup. But it's attitude and knowledge, it's goals and action plan. It's retailing, it's prospecting, qualifying, and sponsoring. Follow up in the ABCs of building that. Each one, it's not the basic four. I've heard trainers say, I work from the basic one. It's not a basic one, it's a basic five. And you have to become proficient in those areas so that you can imprint easily on your team with this. Dennis?
Yes. There, when you look at the basic five, I've always said to folks, listen, getting the rhythm of the business is learning how to implement these 5 points without even knowing you're doing it. Right. And to get to that point, I always tell people or UFOs to work towards their weaknesses. I hear people, I am a great recruiter. I can meet people anywhere, well, good for you, but how about your follow-up? Well, maybe not the best follow-up. Well, you got to work on that. How's your retail? Are you hitting that 500 people? Well, I'm close. I'm at 300. Well, you got to get there. Work to your weaknesses and become the complete player. That is really what we're trying to accomplish here. And I'm amazed because an outside person looking in said, you have been teaching this for years. And it's got to be boring, boring, boring. And I said, absolutely not. Here, you teach it. Tell me how boring it is. And also teach it for 2021. Don't teach it for 1995 or 2000. We are a dynamic company and we're changing based on how people are buying.
It's so true. And, we talk the basics, but look at what you and I were working with last week with Shop Alive and getting everyone introduced to that and how they could use that in the retailing area to build what they're doing. So even though it's the basics are always growing and evolving the way we are because of our technology as a company.
Absolutely. So again, when we start talking about the basics, we've got to think about base 10. Why? Because cash flow is king. We talked about this during our journey of these 12 weeks, becoming a master unfranchised owner. And this is where it happens. But don't ever forget that we are treating our preferred customers with a lifetime value because they are going to refer customers. And that is something that we can do on a consistent basis. So remember, every client is a preferred customer that we serve and have a lifetime value. And your customers generate cash flow, which is very important. And then ultimately business volume, which really feeds a success formula that we talk about with spending quality time and building depth through growth through duplication, ultimately creating business volume, and then ultimately creating commissions. So this is a real powerful spot.
Yeah, and we've spent a lot of time, we probably covered this, I bet you, Dennis, in 6 of our 12 sessions, we've talked about base 10, 7 strong, if not 8 of 12, where we've actually had the diagram on there. And the reason we've spent so much time talking about this when we talk about Master UFO is because you're really setting up the right way to build an organization through retailing and personal use, through creating those commissions and teaching other people to do the same thing. And this is, to this day, every time I look at this chart, the thing it always reminds me of is how few people it takes to be able to earn commissions if people are using and moving products to their preferred customers on a monthly basis. And I'll tell you that was one of the things that initially attracted me to the company over 2 decades ago. And it's one of the things that I'm probably more excited about today than I was even then, Dennis, because of the fact of the way we keep introducing such high quality, cutting edge products that people take and then they order and order and order over and over and over. So base 10, 7 strong, guys, really get after this. Dennis, would you like to add anything onto this?
Well, it does a few things here. Number one, we want to help our personally sponsored to earn as fast as they possibly can. And the base 10 7 strong is a very good way to do it. But, you bring up a really good point, Jim, that how the business evolves. Right now, we can accomplish base 10 with sampling. The unfranchised marketing app. We can now leverage our best product presenters on the shop live and becoming part of their teams by doing that. And because of technology, every person you invite will always be redirected to your website. So you're getting credit. Now, here, if we look at 7 Strong, it's what we've always taught with the names list. But then again, technology allows us to send out information faster and communicate faster, follow up faster. And if we keep in mind that 500 business volume is not that much volume to create when doing the business, you can see how people will continue to grow once they duplicate this. And so, yeah, I really love these 2 diagrams so much because we went over it last week within the first 90 days, but this is truly where it's happening for every new unfranchised owner.
So true. So true.
Okay, let's talk about our homework assignment. Okay, um, let's each take one of these bullet points. Go ahead and start off on our homework assignment.
I think the biggest thing is the time is now. We've been talking about timing a lot. And, we really feel that the time is now for you. We'll finish the 12 weeks, take it and run with what you have right away. Use it while it's all fresh.
Okay, and become the success you are meant to be. Please don't allow yourself to convince yourself to be anything but what you want to become, because you do have the ability, you have the capacity to lead. And it's a matter of just making the decision to make that happen.
So true. And be the unfranchised owner you want to follow. Dennis, sometimes I hear people say, well, I don't feel like I have that great a sponsor, or my senior partner isn't doing this or that. And my answer is always, then become the one you would want them to be. I really think that's the way we have to view it. Be the leader that you wish you could follow, so that your people will be doing that as well.
Bam. Okay, and qualify as a master unfranchised owner every calendar quarter. So already you should have it up on the wall wherever you're doing business on your phone, so that you know exactly what needs to be accomplished. I know on our own team, we've already set our new distributor trainings and basic fives for every quarter. We now know who's doing executive coordinator certification trainings. I know this is a plug for Trina White here in Arizona. She does such a great ECCT. Whenever she's training, we're promoting off of our team because she does such a great job.
I love that you guys are putting it all in the calendar, getting ready to go. We've been talking a lot about how we're going to generate more IBV and do that quicker. And what we're really trying to do is we're imprinting through our organization with our actions. Every time we've been on here, I've said something tonight. And Dennis, I think you said, I've got a lot of people at my house, and I have a lot of people at my house. The kids have all been home, and significant others and friends of theirs. And so tonight, Lisa goes, I don't want to cook again. It's okay. So we ordered Domino's pizza. Well, when we ordered Domino's pizza, you know how we did it? We got a gift card. Okay, went to raise.com, got a gift card, and earned 5% IBV by taking a little extra step, so I can get paid from our business in every step we do, so we can get off to a fast start. Now, what I'm doing is trying to do the things I want my team to do, right? So that if they'll imprint the same way, it'll work. From a BV standpoint, got a little bit too much sun probably this week. So we have our Ultimate Aloe Gel, which we've been putting on, and getting the BV rolling. We got to imprint. We got to talk to our teams about what we're doing so they do the same things.
Well, you really hit home there. I turned to the shop local myself. There's a Thai restaurant here in our community that we use, and we love going to that restaurant. 15% IBV,
Woo!
a good show right there. But you hit a home run with that point. Good for you. And develop the new leaders. Who are those individuals that you've sat down with? They don't have to be your personally sponsored. That's the beauty of our business. You
Mhm.
know, there are no levels. So you're working with the talent. And, you know, chemistry is important. Who are the individuals that you get along well with? Can you help them accomplish their success through an agreed upon plan of action? Can it be in a team effort? I mean, this is so powerful in what we do, but always consider who your next leaders are going to be in your organization, because that's going to keep things going for you on and on and on. So let me just stop my share here. I'm going to just speak out to Andrew Chi for a moment. Is there any questions or comments that we need to address, Andrew,
Uh,
tonight?
nope, we're all just taking it in and love the amazing segment and the amazing series. Thank you, Jim and Dennis, for this.
Well,
Okay.
Andrew, thank you for everything you've done. You know, for everybody who's watching, Andrew's been on each one of these behind the scenes, making sure to answer questions, making sure Dennis and I have everything set up correctly the way we need to. And we really appreciate your effort, not only on these 12 weeks, but everything you're doing as a teammate, Andrew.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And Jim, thank you for co-hosting this masterclass. 12 weeks. It's been a great journey for us. I'm looking forward to this next calendar quarter, and I'm looking forward to all those that have made the commitment to make the third quarter their next quarter to qualify as a master unfranchised owner.
It's been a pleasure. Everything's recorded, team, so you have the ability to jump back and have your teammates watch these. Dennis, it has absolutely been my pleasure to spend these 12 weeks training alongside of you. So, team, thank you. We are looking forward to record Master UFO. So, take care. Have a great night, and we'll probably see you later in the week with Shop Live.
Take care.